Welcome back, Commanders. My name is Archrist, and today I'll be briefing you on your brand new T-Doll, the Ikkyo idol, Sharkry. Sharkry is a sentinel rifle-wielding, fire-shooting, cheeky T-Doll. She is quite the powerhouse. She focuses on fire damage, and with the right follow-up setup, she'll push DPS as if she was an elite doll. I will mention that in all my guides, I'll be referring to Confectant's Index of skill points, since this is much easier to understand. To jump ahead, I need to explain one of the fixed keys to making Sharkry as powerful as she is. Fixed key 203, Thermal Feedback. When an enemy within a range is afflicted with Overburn, she'll follow up with Y Support, dealing physical damage equal to 80% of her attack and reducing 2 stability. This could be triggered up to 3 times a turn. What makes this interesting is that most support actions does not trigger another support action. But since this is considered a Y support, this can and will trigger other support actions and can be triggered by support actions. This key is a staple for Sharkry and should be considered to be a part of a base kit. Moving on, Sharkry's skill point generation mechanic is tied to a passive, Make Up Organization. She will gain 1 skill point at the start of every action. She will also gain 1 skill point for each time an enemy is inflicted with Overburn. Her passive also increases her crit chance versus overburn targets by 20%. Sharkry's basic attack is Love Shot. It has a range of 8 and deals physical damage equal to 80% of her attack and reducing 2 stability. Sharkry's ultimate is Highlight Moment, which costs 3 skill points. She simply gains 1 stack of a unique buff, Zoom In, as well as gaining extra command, which allows her to immediately choose another action. The Zoom In buff itself increases the damage of Sharkry's next attack by 15%, and reduces an extra 2 stability. This can only be stacked twice and goes away after the attack. Sharkry's active skill 1 is Boiling Soundwave, which has a 2-turn cooldown. She targets one enemy up to 8 tiles away and first applies Overburn to them for 1 turn. She then deals burn damage equal to 140% of her attack and reducing their stability by 3. She'll reduce 1 extra stability for each stack of Zoom In buff she has. With the fixed key, she will actually attack twice. When she applies Overburn, she will immediately perform her Y support. Sharkry's active skill 2 is Perfect Rising Tone, which has a 2-turn cooldown. She targets one enemy up to 8 tiles away and deals physical damage equal to 150% of her attack and reducing 3 stability. She will also get 1 stack of Zoom In. If the target is inflicted with Overburn, she will also apply 2 stacks of Flammable to the enemy before the attack and changes the attack to burn damage. The Flammable debuff reduces 2 extra stability when attacked with burn damage. The attacker will also recover 2 stability. This debuff can be stacked twice, and each attack will reduce this stack by 1. When deploying Sharkry onto the field, the key element to playing her is utilizing the Overburn debuff to blast enemies away and generate super fast skill points. Make sure to field her with a team that can constantly apply Overburn. She has ridiculously high stability damage and high attack thanks to all of her stacking effects. I will go over 2 base rotations. First, if she is fielded without a reliable source of Overburn. Because she can only generate 1 to 2 skill points per turn, the most she can do is spread out her ult buff to each attack. So on turn 1, use ult and then active skill 1. On turn 2, ult and use active skill 2. On turn 3, just use basic attack. While she does okay like this is definitely not the shining idol she should be. If, however, she has a reliable source of Overburn, she can fully utilize her stacking buffs. So on turn 1, double ult and then use active skill 1. On turn 2, double ult and then use active skill 2. And on turn 3, single ult and basic. It is very important that you're constantly checking her skill points and making sure she doesn't overcap. Otherwise, she will lose her use of her ultimate somewhere. Onto her pros and cons. Both her single target and her stability damage is extremely good, especially for a standard doll, and is very viable in hard mode content. As for her cons, if she doesn't have a team formed around the Overburn debuff, she really falls off. Sharkry's best weapon is the Planeter. It gives crit damage, and its trait grants a random buff if Sharkry is at full HP at the start of the turn. Its effect Path Patrol increases skill damage by 4% for each kill or after extra actions, stacking up to 5 times. Once she has reached 5 stacks, she will gain a buff which lets her move another 2 tiles after an attack. Yes, this effect stacks after each use of her ultimate, capping this effect really quickly. She can also use the Golden Melody. It has attack boost and the same buff trait as the Planetar. Its effect charging just straight up gives a 10% increased damage. When gaining buffs, her next 2 action supports are buffed by another 10%. If you got the battle pass, you can use the Guerno. It has attack boost and the same random buff trait as the other rifles. Cooperative Warfare increases damage and healing by 5% for each ally within 5 tiles, capping at 3 allies. If there was at least 2 allies in range when she attacks, she can move 2 additional tiles. Otherwise, use any other elite assault rifle for its base stats. If you don't have any spare elite weapons, you can use a namesake, the Robertson Modular Rifle. It has the same random buff trait as the other rifles, and its effect Spotlight increases skill damage for every 3 skill points used. Her attachments follow the DPS archetype, focusing first on attack percent, attack, crit rate, and crit damage. Reminder that the only attachment that can have the crit damage is the muzzle. When it comes to which attachment sets the farm, she swaps back and forth. If you do not have a reliable source of overburn, use the burn boost set. It increases burn damage by 20%, as most of her damage will be coming from her skills, which both do burn damage. If you do have a reliable source of overburn, then use the Face Strike set. It increases damage by 15% as long as they have an elemental debuff. You want to swap to Face Strike because with Y support, her damage is now split between burn and physical. In the future, when a mod key is released, which will change her Y supports to burn damage, at that point, her best attachment is back to burn boost. When it comes to her fixed keys, the best ones to obtain are her aforementioned 203 thermal feedback. I won't go over this again, but this is a staple must-use key. For our other 2 keys is 201 Devilish Whisper, which starts her at max skill points, and 401 Deadly Allure. If any enemies have overburn at the start of Sharkry's turn, she will automatically gain the Blazing Assault buff, which increases her attack by 15%. 403 Idle Trading Day can be used in the 3rd slot instead. She will gain the Blazing Assault buff for 2 turns when she uses her active skill 2 on a target with overburn. Fixed keys 601 and 603 are situational and are not recommended for a core build. Her common key is Opening Fireworks, which increases her damage if she has more than 1 buff. Other common keys she can steal is Ulrid's Mangle, which increases damage to enemies not at full HP, or Tololo's Afterglow, which increases damage when not at max skill points. She can steal QJ's Strategic Negotiation, but since they're likely paired together, it is better on QJ. Otherwise, any common key that increases attack or crit values will work. Next, we'll have a quick look at the Fortifications. At V1, the overburn caused by her active skill 1 will last 2 turns instead of just 1. At V2, her ult will now grant her damage up, increasing damage by 10% for the turn. At V3, if she kills an enemy with active skill 2, she gains a stack of Zoom In. At V4, her passive now gives an increased 30% crit chance against enemies with overburn. On top of that, she has an increased 3% crit damage for each buff she has, capping at 15%. At V5, the Zoom In buff now increases damage by 20% per stack, up from 15%. And at V6, she now gains an automatic stack of Zoom In at the start of an action. To finish off, we'll have a quick look at suitable teammates to field along Sharkry. Her best teammate is QJ, assuming she has at least V3. These two trigger each other's action supports. Sharkry will attack, which triggers QJ's action support, which applies overburn. Sharkry will then follow up with her Y support. These two are so hot that they will melt the enemy's HP bar until they burn into the ground. Yes, this was the same line I used in my QJ video. With Vector coming up, she is the best support to run along these two to create the burn team. Vector can implant burn weakness on enemies, grant buffs, and increase the amount of support actions per turn. More on Vector when she releases. If you do not have QJ V3, her best DPS partner to apply overburn is Krolik, as she does AoE overburn at the end of her actions. Centuresi is an excellent sustain to run with Sharkry, as she also benefits from enemies with overburn, plus she can apply overburn herself with her passive. Or you can use Ksenia, as she can also apply overburn with her active skill 1 while providing DPS buffs. Moving away from the burn team, she pairs really well with Mosin, as Sharkry's stability shred is really strong, making it easy for Mosin to perform her support actions. Here are some examples of team compositions. And that about wraps up this character briefing for Sharkry. I hope this guide helps, and if you have any other suggestions on a build or teammates, make sure to leave a comment below. Until next time, Commanders.